Boa tarde. Sejam bem-vindas e bem-vindos ao evento Entre Maracás e Tambores, Discutindo.
Good morning. Welcome to the event amongst rattles and drums. We want to be an institution who talks about institutional diversity, and amongst 2 and 11 of May, with a partnership of First Nation University and Regina University from Canada, we are making a meeting among students who are Indigenous from Canada and Brazilian Indigenous people. The idea was to materialize the collaborative field experience 2024 with a promotion of itinerant in the states of Paraná and São Paulo, talking about originated knowledge from Brazil and Canada, and we want this to be shared. This is part of a program with the opportunity for the reflection on the theme of economy and sustainability. The people who are going to be speaking today with the theme Among Rattles and Drums will talk about Indigenous and sustainability economy with Professor Epana Carina dos Santos from Cambemi in Canada, and Tim Isnana from the School of Business, First Nation University, and from the Brazilian side, André Fernando from Baniua, who is the General Coordinator for the Promotion of Citizenship of Indigenous People in the Ministry of Indigenous People, and Master's Degree in Sustainability, Indigenous Communities, and Traditional at UNB. We are going to begin our activities with some authorities, and we are going to welcome them. They can come to the floor, to some floor for the Director of Superior School of Education and Language, Professor Dinamara Pereira Machado. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to have you all here. I was talking to Baniwa that today it's a day when we should have a party. This is a day when we are going to receive our borders, and we are going to understand that to work with respect is something we have to do every day. To work with respect, we have to speak, we have to be present. I am very thankful to the Dean, to the Vice Dean, to our Pro Dean, and our mentor who have been working with us for 10 years, and they let us discuss the matter of respect. And it's not only about respect because respect is important to talk about. We have to have respect with actions, like the ones we have today, the respect we have for our fellow brothers. We are all brothers, we are all the same, and we have differences. We are very happy to receive the team from Canada. We are very happy to receive Fernando when you were talking stories out. I'm going to your people. And he said, you will come inside with me at the canoe. But the house UNINTER is a house for diversity. UNINTER is a house where we say, it's important to talk about respect, but it's important to practice respect. Be very welcome. This is only one fragment of this wonderful week we are having. It's only one fragment of what we work every day with our 500,000 students. Because if we form the new generations based on respect, we will not have war. If we say that respect is important and we are the same but different, we will live well, and we are not going to face hunger or sadness alone. Be welcome, and this is a lot of emotion in my heart. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor. And here we call to the floor Rodrigo Beté, the Pro Dean of Graduation of the International Center of University UNINTER. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to have you all here, mostly our visitors who are here in what I call a great mission. It's a great mission to be here with us, the communities in Brazil together with us. Our students, I saw here one student from Ilha da Cotinga, Carol from Funai, who has always been with us in all the projects we have going on. Thank you, Jason, from Internationalization, and all the team, Professor Dinamara, for all the work she has been developing. And when Professor Dinamara said some things, I think she talked about everything. She talked about people, she talked about humanity, she talked about the importance of what we are doing here. And when I looked at the theme, sustainability, and we are bringing here André Fernando to talk about sustainability, economy, education, we have to think about a world when we are having a process of non-sustainability. We are going to talk about sustainability, but we live in a process, if we can call, non-sustainable. And we have to rethink the importance, not in the anthropocentric point of view, when I think I am a man, I am the owner of everything, but in a biocentric point of view, with different dimensions. What is the importance of the human being in nature, but what is the importance of that person in the ecosystem? We are all important. We are all part of the cycle of life, of the chain of life, and biosphere, which is a concept I always mention in my classes. We can talk about, for geography, for example, the concept of biosphere. What is the biosphere? Is the sphere of life. Where you have life, you have biosphere. And we have to, particularly in this scenario of non-sustainability that we face all over the planet, to take care of life and to take care of all forms of life. Congratulations and thank you very much for being here with us today. Thank you, Pro Dean. Now we invite for some words the Dean of the International University UNINTER, Professor Dr. Benhur Etelberto Gaio. Good afternoon. I want you to feel very welcome at our university, our house, our institution is celebrating today, as Professor Dinamara mentioned, because we have such important visitors. Feel at home, be welcome. I greet Professor Jorge Bernardi, our Vice Dean, and if I'm not mentioning everybody from the Dean team, I'm sorry, but today, with your presence, we feel we have the size of the world. Professor Dinamara is always talking about this because we have students all over the world, almost all over all the continents. They are in the Middle East, they are in Japan, in Europe, in North America, in the American continent. So we feel proud to take these courses with high quality to our people who are all over the world. But especially and mostly we feel happy because we have students who are indigenous and they are here at the Ilha da Cotinga, Cotinga Island, on the shore of our state. And this activity that we have been developing, taking our courses to our first inhabitants, to our indigenous communities, that makes us very happy because it shows that we are a institution that is consolidated because This institution is making social actions which are more relevant than only the theoretical university courses we provide. As I mentioned, almost all the continents. Today, all the representatives of the indigenous community, please feel welcome. Please feel you are home among us. And we felt Professor Dinamara, Professor Bertel saying you are welcome, and these words are mine. We feel proud to have you here with us now, and we want UNINTER to be your house. We want UNINTER to receive you with happiness, with open arms, and as you notice, with the presence of everybody who works with our courses in all the levels, and they are here and they want to listen to you, they want to get to know you and receive you as part of the UNINTER family. Be sure you're part of our family. Thank you very much, and let's have a wonderful event. Thank you, Dean. Now we invite for some words the Vice President of UNITER Global Hub, Jason Matthew Diet.
Olá, boa tarde a todas e todos. Vou falar em português agora.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm going to speak in Portuguese. I'd like to talk about 3 pillars, which is in the second year, but very well in the beginning. First is direct connections. Second would be respect and value. And the third would be education. In a curricular sense. And then I'll talk about 2 advancements in this sense. And we're going to show a video to show you a little bit of what we had in the last 4 days. First, it's direct contact, talking about indigenous communities. And it has always been the north of our program. But last year we failed. We made an open call for indigenous students, but we wanted them to speak English to make that communication feasible, but it was not appropriate for the public, so we learn from that, and we are very happy to have half of the group talking Portuguese and English and making this bridge, and the other half indigenous students from UNITER and potential future students from indigenous communities for UNITER. So this is what's happening this year and didn't happen last year. Second thing is respect and valorization. I don't need to talk much. And third thing about curricular education has to do with Professor Ginamara and the teachers here, but we have to make some curriculums which are important for the gap of learning that we have in Canada and in the United States and in Brazil about original communities. I didn't know much, and I have been learning the last few years. So the design of the curriculum should be for this public. And the other part, what would be interesting for the point of view of the indigenous people. And I think it's complex and difficult, and I have no idea. So this would be the 3 things. 2 things that I think that are important advancements. One is the arrival of Professor Karina. Congratulations to UNINTER as a whole. And it makes a brutal difference. The first year, I depended on the last years. I'm very comfortable not knowing things, And I turned to Carol, and she helped the articulation with the community of Laércio, and it led to other wonderful things. But now these roots with Professor Karina inside the house is extremely important, so that would be a first place for me. Second place, the internal partnership that we have considering Global Hub with an international focus, the challenges, the difficulties, but we are like a catalyst. We are not going to have only one team. Then we have other partnerships with the School of Education, Humanities and Languages. It's fundamental. Now I'll stop talking, I'll show you the film, but it has been super important, learning every week, preparing every week. So it's a great, great pleasure to be here. I'm very happy because we have many courses ahead, and now we'll pass this movie to show to you how these first days have been. Thank you very much.
Nesses 2 dias eu já encontrei 17 povos originários entre os países Brasil e Canadá. Me faz perceber o papel importante que nesse momento chega a mim. O papel de unir, o papel de ser ponte entre diferentes nações dos povos originários. E trazendo para a questão da educação, em cada território que foi percebido, que foi visitado, eu consegui me encontrar como indígena brasileira, como indígena originária, como ser da terra, e que eu preciso estar sempre conectada. Apesar de estar morando na cidade, eu tenho que sempre estar bebendo na fonte, que são os territórios sagrados, que são as aldeias. Assim como eles estão nas aldeias, eles também estão fazendo um movimento contrário. Muitos estão querendo chegar à universidade e a UNINTER, ela nesse momento, ela acaba sendo essa porta que está aberta. É uma porta que quer fazer com que eles se sintam bem na casa. Mas como indígena eu pergunto e fico me questionando. Quais são os assentos que a UNINTER está preparando para os nossos estudantes indígenas, para que eles se sintam bem acomodados como eu estou nessa poltrona? Qual é o meu papel? Qual é o meu papel de protagonismo e de fazer com que eles se sintam bem na instituição a que eu pertenço e que a instituição a que eu pertenço acolha-os com magnitude, com honra, com solidariedade e com respeito à cultura de cada um, que é diferente da minha e é diferente daqueles que estão na UNINTER, que estão acostumados a receber. Estamos dando apenas o primeiro passo. E esse passo precisa ser bem acertado, precisa ser bem pensado para que esse caminho, que é o curuaçu, seja dado acertadamente. E que mais tarde a gente possa dizer, fizemos a caminhada certa, atravessamos ponte, atravessamos barreiras, nós conseguimos vencer esses obstáculos no caminho. Possamos entregar para a instituição e para as próprias comunidades pessoas formadas, pessoas com graduações que possam levar todo o conhecimento que adquiriram na instituição para as suas aldeias, para os seus territórios. É um encontro de culturas diferentes que se juntam em favor de um único bem, fazer o outro se agigantar, fazer o outro ser protagonista da sua própria história.
Thank you, Jency Violet, for words, and continuing with our events among Rato and Rams discussing Indigenous education and sustainability. We will begin our cultural moment with an ethnical presentation from the indigenous group from Pernambuco to Funio. They are made by originated people from Aldeia Funio in Pernambuco. So I'm inviting Antônio Veríssimo Manário, ethnical name Towe Veríssimo Fumio, Cícero Leite Machado, ethnical name Satle Funio, Florisvaldo Pereira dos Santos, ethnical name Fequeia Funio, and Edson Pereira dos Santos, ethnical name Foa Funio. Let's give them a big hand, the Towe Funio group. Today, the indigenous group Tuefunyo will perform 3 musics and dance. First music, Oximan OK, lyrics from Tuefunyo, and then the group will present the dance of the elderly in Portuguese. Second music, Waka Falacho, Sexuala. In this music, the Funyo people is invited to dance and receive the energy that comes from the earth. The third song, it's an invitation for singing and dancing. It reminds us the importance of the land for the indigenous people and brings up the idea that the big spirit made it for that, so that we could live in peace and happy.
a seu as do que errei a deitoar, a seu as do que errei deito, oi a tua a pecato, todos vocês que convidaram nós. Somos, como ela falou, somos índios da tribo Funiô.
We are indigenous from the Funio tribe, Aguatera, Pernambuco. We are warriors. We fight for our causes, for our lands, where we live. And thank you, all of you, because you invited us to your house. For us, this is sacred and our Funio respect. Thank you so much for the Funio group for this presentation today. Now I invite the professor from Ethnico-Racial Relationships from UNINTER, Karina da Costa Santos, to be part of the discussions we're going to have today as a mediator. When somebody says the place is sacred, we have to honor them. And I am very happy. My heart is full of happiness because I am in a place for knowledge, but now this is a place for specific knowledge, especially for me as an Aboriginal person. My grandfather would say that when we want to learn, we have to play the rattle, because the revelation will appear at the voice of the people involved. And now, the revelation comes in the voice of two relatives, Isnana and André, whom I invite to be near me here. Here we have a team that's very important, that's among rattle and drums. We'll talk about indigenous education and sustainability. We will start with a relative coming from far away. The expression relative, it doesn't mean he is somebody from my family by blood. But for us, for the indigenous people, that means this person is either indigenous or not indigenous, but we recognize them as one of us to be together with us in this fight. Team is this relative, this indigenous relative coming from Canada. But who is Team? I know you will know now. Team Isnana is a lifelong member of the Buffalo Dakota Nation. He has a master's degree in business administration from Athabasca University, Bachelor of Commerce from the University of Saskatchewan, and alumni from First Nation University. Team's research includes corporate social responsibility for the indigenous, partnerships with stakeholders in the indigenous and natural resources, water, and he has over 20 years of experience in the sector business and focuses on teaching indigenous students about business fundamentals applicable to their future careers. And this is our team. I usually say in our language we have a word that means basket. That's Jamanjin team. It's a big basket full of knowledge, and he's going to share with us. Please feel comfortable.
Thank you for inviting me to your house. I just want to say it's a big honor for me to be here with my students in another country. As an Indigenous person, Indigenous male, I am a Dakota Sioux from Standing Buffalo First Nation in Canada. I am one of the descendants of one of the first peoples of Turtle Island, which is Canada and the United States. It has been a very interesting trip today to see the indigenous peoples of Brazil. The indigenous culture is no different. It's so similar that over the past few days I've had a chance to think and reflect and begin to understand many of the concepts the elders in my communities have been talking and teaching myself. My Dakota name is Makpias Naya Hadinaji, that space between lightning and thunder, and it allows me to see things from afar, to see things 10,000 feet up looking down, and to understand it from a very broad perspective. Back in my my homelands. We have First Nations University of Canada, which was created 50 years ago, about 50 years ago. And it came to be with the elders coming together and understanding that the future is going to require our Indigenous young ones, even the ones that are not yet born, to have an education, something universal. And much like UNINTER, this house, the strength of the leadership, the strength of the professors, Professor Clarina, having that vision and that understanding. A business concept that I will use is vertical integration, to apply that seed of knowledge at all levels throughout the institution, and then to horizontally integrate that knowledge amongst all the employees. Indigenous education is very valuable, much like what we teach in First Nations University of Canada is what I've experienced over the past couple of days, for example. The Faculty of Indigenous Knowledge and Science in First Nations University of Canada, they look at biology, chemistry, science, from a Western perspective, but blending Indigenous knowledge. That knowledge is taking the knowledge of Indigenous people and blending it with that Western traditional system. And to be able to teach our students, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, the important value of the environment, the stewardship, the responsibility of maintaining that land and figuring out the ecology, that biodiversity in whichever area that the people are going to be studying, whether it be in Canada, US, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, places where Indigenous people have a strong connection to the lands. We are the original First Peoples. We still continue to understand and foster the development of our education amongst our young, much what Professor Clarina is trying to do with her students, with her faculty, her administrators within this institution. In a Dakota word that I will share with you means Kampemne. Kampemne is like the teepee poles, and at the top, the teepee poles that jut out to the sky. That knowledge of Dakota people, that what we do here on earth will also be sent up to our relatives who are watching over us. So this knowledge that we share is also the meaning of inclusion, that diversity, accepting multiple cultures into our family so that we can share that knowledge together and figure out ways to help our people, to help those decisions form for the ones that are yet to be born. In our culture, we say that the decisions we make now will impact 7 generations down the road. So we have to make them smart decisions so that our young ones, even the ones that are not born, will inherit a very prosperous future. So balancing everything from an Indigenous perspective means the mind, body, and the physical, the spiritual, so that we can understand that inclusion and diversity. When we come to a university, we can actually understand how to manage our resources, protect those resources for the future. My current research as a doctoral student is focusing on the Indigenous knowledge for protecting water. And surprisingly, it took the doctoral program for me as an Indigenous person to understand that when I peel away those layers to get to who I am, its true meaning basically allows me to look at all the things that I do in my growing years, what the elders have taught me, what the other clans in our communities have taught me as a hunter and as a fisher. That knowledge that instilled in me is what I'm sharing now with the youth and showing them what they need to do to survive, what they need to do when they're in the bush, walking and seeing how the animals are interacting with each other, that climate change is real. It's changing our way to a point where we have to understand that our current road needs to change. So when we talk about sustainability and Indigenous education, the programs that are being offered here, that knowledge, is essentially an olive branch, again, to many communities, many non-Indigenous people to understand, and hopefully that Indigenous knowledge will continue within those individuals once they are completed their programs, their degrees, and they can go out into the world. So this way, that we have a future where all people are in balance in some way, shape, or form to protect the resources that we have in order to understand that it's a very finite resource. We only have so much water. Back in Canada, we have tens of thousands of lakes, but that water is being contaminated. So that contaminated water is going to be so expensive to clean and to drink that where else are we going to turn to? So much like what we've seen over the past few days, this connection between communities, connection between First Nation University and UNINTER, this is what our communities need to prove that the Indigenous knowledge of First Peoples is valid from an academic perspective, from a professional perspective, bringing in other Indigenous groups from around the world here or to Canada to show that strengthening of that relationship to help universities, the academia, continue to move forward in developing this knowledge in an open system will allow our communities and everybody within academia to move forward as one. My heart is filled with so much joy because it's an honor to be here. I brought my students from Canada to show them a different world, to show them a different perspective, so that they can take this knowledge back into their own communities and speak with the elders, speak with the youth, speak with their family and friends in those communities, and to show them that we are the same. You know, our skin color might be different, but we're human. We all have blood within our veins. Wherever we are, it's just a matter of how we think, the differences we think, whether it be the indifference or being, tolerable. But the way I see the strength of our academia, our academics, comes from strong women. In the Dakota culture, we have a balance between male and female, and that is reestablishing itself back in Canada. The clan system, where the male is unequal with the female. Any decision is brought to both male and female before that decision is made, so our children can benefit. This is the difference, I think, or the similarities that I see in the two Indigenous communities we visited. Much of the discussion that we've been having I've been listening to my students talk with the Brazilian students and understanding that the similarities are there. It's almost like looking in a mirror, just from a different lens. So as an Indigenous person, I am very grateful to share this knowledge with you today so that you can take that knowledge and further develop that knowledge, develop those relationships in a collaborative manner so that UNINTER and other institutions around the world can continue to move forward. Thank you.
Muito.
Many words, many things to be learned. And the important word for me is intelligence, but not for now, but for the future, for tomorrow. Thank you, Professora Karina. Thank you, Professor Tim. And now we have a library in the building for Funio Sheta Guarani Kangangi, and this an exposition. We will have a break for 10 minutes for visiting that, and then we'll come back with Professor Fernando, so a break for 10 minutes for the visitation now.
Retornando para a nossa programação,
Coming back to our program, we will continue with the participation of Professor André Fernando Baniwa. We can play the rattle, the revelation will come. We will listen now our relative André Fernando, very well known as André Baniwa. André Baniwa is a professor, writer, and social entrepreneur for the Education Escola Batiwa Panali, Economy Baniwa, Art Baniwa, Pinafa Baniwa, and Cultural Heritage. He's also an indigenous activist as one of the leaders of the Baniwa people since 1992, also vice president of the indigenous organization of Isnana Bay, OIB, one of the 90 associations linked to the Federation of the Organizations of Indigenous of Rio Negro, FOIN. The main organizational structure, which covers 750 villages of 23 indigenous people distributed in the channel of Rio Negro and some of its tributaries. In almost 30 years of activity, he has been an advisor for the National Foundation of Indigenous People, FUNAI, and technical assistant for the development and social environmental research at the Institute Social Environmental ISA. He is nowadays an arm inside the Ministry of Indigenous People, and also he was part of this ministry, and I have the honor to say that he's coming back to the house where he graduated. He was a technological graduate in environmental education in UNINTER. Began to Anua. Sorry, he's speaking his original language, which I don't understand. Now, he's speaking Portuguese. So, he's saying now in Portuguese, good afternoon to everyone. My name is André Baniwa. I just talk to you in my Baniwa language so that you could feel the sound of our language. I said I am very happy to be here with you, seeing you, getting to know you. Thank you for the opportunity, Gina Mara and all the group of the deans and the professors who received me since yesterday. I will come back with some pounds more because you are feeding me a lot and your food is so good. Thank you very much, Karina. I called Karina a relative and sister in my language, and my brother from Canada. I hope one day I will have the privilege to get to know your land as well. I am from the Amazon region. I am from Amazonas. Karina already read the context of the place we are belonging. I will bring a presentation to you with some images, telling a little bit about the Baniwa people, and also talking about the school system of education for the Baniwas. And I will try to bring the main matter, which is sustainability, which is the theme of our event. And I already heard some other important people talking about this. And thank you for everybody and for UNINTER to give me the opportunity to make the course of environmental management so that I can have more cultural aspects for the scientific aspects. I want to talk about how we can value the science in technologies and ancestral knowledge. This is what I will talk about mostly. How to value the science. Indigenous science is already recognized in the Article 231 in the Constitution when they say we recognize for the indigenous people the customs and the traditions and so on.
And in the text, they acknowledge our own living system, our own system to produce knowledge. And there is another article in the Constitution that ensures our languages and our own learning processes, which also say and acknowledge our own methods to produce our knowledge.
LDB traz isso.
So that is the native science, and also states it is intercultural knowledge. And in our country, let's say we just became independent from the care of the state, but that acknowledges that it is the result of the fight of the native populations and also the work together with some of the universities in the country. It is important to tell you this story because it puts into context and says why we talk about appreciating traditional knowledge. In all this, I think it is the case to talk about the Baniwa people. The Baniwa people were also colonized. I was born in 71, and I was born a Christian already. Okay, I was already saved to go to paradise, right? Obviously, it's not exactly like that. It's just a joke. But what I wanted to say is that our own knowledge and our own science, our way of producing knowledge, had already suffered centuries of unappreciation, centuries of, let's call it, unappreciation of the value of our knowledge. I got interested in studying this because my father went talking to priests and pastors and politicians, and I wanted to understand what was going on. After 1984, when he participated in the first leadership assembly in the Alto Negro River, he heard from other leaders who started the movement that we had been exploited in our work by the Colombians, by the Bolivians, and also by the Brazilian traders. And since I was a child, I heard that, and nobody would tell him how things worked. And he said, and they told him, well, if you let your son go to school, maybe they will help you understand the things you want to know. Because if I tell you now, you will not be able to understand it. And by hearing these stories, I got interested in studying, to learn the Portuguese language, and also to understand the non-native world, how it works, how it's structured, to go and communicate that to my people, and maybe then we would be less ripped off, so to speak. So what motivated me in this process, and that was my learning process until today, is the search to understand our culture and recovering our culture and our values. This image, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe, no? Back a little bit? Not too much? No? Just, okay, wait a minute. I'm looking for, okay, I'm looking for the little light here. Is this how it works? No? Well, okay, anyhow, this sign here, I mean, and to tell you a little bit of our story. Okay, I get it now. Now, these are stone drawings. You call it petroglyphs. Okay, so these are like hieroglyphs on stone. They are more than 124 of these signs that have been recorded by anthropologists, but there's more, many more. And this little book tells the recent history after the 1988 Constitution. In that decade, the Negro River populations got their land, their land marked, and then we started also working on appreciation of knowledge, always associating that with the culture, and also the knowledge that the Banua people learned to appreciate. So our experience, the experience I will tell you about is for this knowledge. I mean, because the native knowledge has many good things. I mean, some of the things are not that good, but also on the non-native society, we have excellent things. We also have other things that aren't good for us. Now, the experience I'll tell you about is the attempt to put together good things in our culture that we could remember still, and also use the good things that we got through colonization. Now, these stones are signs for us, okay, symbols. Through these signs, I say that we always had writing, because each of these symbols will tell a story.
Meus parentes falam assim.
My family is used to saying that, well, this paper talks to me and I talk to the paper. Or I can make the paper speak on my behalf. Maybe it's a clear translation of these symbols, graphic images, graphic signs. They speak for us on our behalf. And we learn what each of these locations mean, where we find these drawings, and that's 1,000-year-old knowledge, traditional communication and knowledge. Now, the Banua people is nowadays essentially religious, with the religion that came from outside, Catholics and Protestants. I'm familiar with both of religions. Since I'm a leader, I both talk to the priests and the pastors. So this is a very hard process that we suffered, and the 88 Constitution gives us the opportunity to rethink, reappreciate our own knowledge. And we for like 2 weeks, we have been implementing our own projects. And that's our history. Appreciation of the native knowledge. I'm not going to read everything that you see on the slide, but what caused the unappreciation and was the scarcity, the fish scarcity, the food insecurity, because traditional knowledge among the natives was the fundamental stone of managing the fauna and the flora. That ensured food security in full, because culturally, we don't have freezers or refrigerators. We don't have any place to store the food. So the traditional strategy was to manage resources, to always have abundant hunting and fishing. And that was known through the traditional prayers, and also through the plants. The Banua are known for knowing many plants, for fishing, for attracting the birds. Many of the relatives here in this area probably know that. So it wouldn't scare animals away, it wouldn't scare the fish away. So fighting the traditional knowledge leads to scarcity, food insecurity. I mean, this leads to the topic of sustainability, of course. That's just one aspect, but there are many others. for example, about native traditional medicine, which we kind of divide into three areas: preventive and cosmetic plants, and also crop medicinal plants, also the healing plants, and also the spiritual plants. I don't know where that word pajé in Portuguese came from, but in this Baniwa language we call the marige. Marige is the person who has their own tool to access other worlds, to do this spiritual handling, to protect the health of a person, a woman's health, a child's health, the entire family. He is the person who we now call the prayer sayer, the healer, the shaman. It's like a surgeon. So that would be a surgeon in your culture, because you feel that you have something like in your stomach, in your tummy. You go there and the healer will remove that rock. They will get a scalpel. They have the technique, the knowledge, and that this person possesses alone. So the pajé was the person who everyone knew that they only had this advanced knowledge, but they wouldn't use scalpels. They would use the marikai. Marikai, I don't know where the word pajé came from, and so the device is in their body. They have it in their body to remove the disease from your body with their mouth, and then it will heal you. So we do have that knowledge. Or we had this knowledge. Some people still do. My father still knows many plant varieties. And these plants, they act preventively, which you call vaccines, to healing, anti-aging, which generally, native cultures really work a lot so they don't get gray hair too early, right? So we have all of these plants, and all of that is knowledge. How do the natives knew that these plants existed? It's through their history, because it tells how the world was created and how mankind came to be animals and plants. And from that's why these are 1,000-year-old piece of knowledge. So we use that, and besides, we also have the practical experience, experimenting. Somebody told me this. I will try this. It healed me. I will tell another one you're sick, and then I use this, and then maybe this will heal you. And this is science. It's knowledge. Okay, going beyond that topic. This other portion is about the food systems, the traditional native Negro River systems, crop plants. For example, here we have peppers. For example, this also involves entrepreneurship. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Now, entrepreneurship, they call me a social entrepreneur because these activity with the peppers, they are made by and handled by women on the fields, and they have 78 types of peppers that they grow. 6,000 baniwas on the Brazilian side, working with 78 types of peppers. And the women told us that they wanted to make their own money. They didn't want to be dependent on the man who sold crafts and arts and crafts. But the goal, or the woman's desire, women have different desires. Man will buy axes, fabric. That's what he's worried about. That's what he wants to assure food to the family. Not the women. They have different things. It's sanitary material, pants. They care about the kids. And then we conducted a survey using the non-native knowledge, and we came to understand that we could sell the paper. We didn't know that in Brazil there were many types of varieties. We didn't know that, so we learned that the paper had been sold many years ago in Colombia, in Venezuela, and all the trade, so it did have value. And we learned, and since we live very far away, we wanted to sell it really in good packaging so that the society will accept and appreciate. And together with it, we wanted to tell our history with the paper. Right? Good? No, okay? My time is almost up? Okay, all right. I barely started telling you my story. So, the paper is at the core of our culture of the Baniwa people. Okay, all right, okay, I know. I'll hurry up. And this is the other part of the knowledge. These are baskets woven by men, but they are used by women. And this is part of an initiative to generate income for the men. So we created this brand, which is what you see here, Baniwa Art, to appreciate our knowledge, and I'll tell you the story. Our partner, Beto Ricardo, in the Social Environmental Institute, he took me to São Paulo to visit some places, modern museums, and then he would show, see, this is modern art. And then I asked him, what's the meaning of this? He said, I don't know. Then he asked somebody else to explain. He said, no, what? No, and this here you have to look at it, stare at the image, and then you try to understand what it means to you. And then I said, wow, well, it's easy to be an artist here, right? I will just make any design. I'll tell you to look at it and then tell you to interpret. Then I said, no, Beto, he's an anthropologist. I mean, I have to educate this country. I can't be like that. We do something better than that. We explain things through our art. It needs to be appreciated. I mean, people are paying for this. I mean, you make it and then I interpret. It's not right. So that's why we call it Baniwa art, just to tell you. But there are more things. In education, we decided to create our own school in the year 2000, but we created this process in 95, 97, and discussed why is school important for the Baniwa group? Why do the community need the school? And how could we help the school be as we wanted it to be? The elderly said, well, we will create the school, but it needs to appreciate our knowledge. If not, then we will lose our identity and our way of thinking. And humans are born curious. My grandfather used to say, we are born crying because we wonder where we are. Who's going to take care of me? And because of this, we determined that the school education created by us would use teaching via research. Because the school that came to us, the elderly called it lazy people's work, because it taught you from 8 to 11, then the child wouldn't do anything else. And the parents would be working on the fields, and the child would be lost the rest of the day. In this way of thinking and creating a school and teaching the youth worked very well, because curiosity of students brings them to the interests of finding out more than just in receiving knowledge, and then you create a different concept for the teacher, which is of a guide. Somebody who orients, somebody who learns to, even with the youth, they come from their communities with a lot of knowledge. This image is the road to the school. I couldn't find a larger image, but here we created the first agroecological course in the State University of the state of Amazonas. And we wanted for this to have the Baniwa name because of our traditional farming system in the Negro River. Now, it's just a school. Okay, we live along these communities and sites, and this is the school territory. The drawings you see are roads where the children live and walk, and then they learn every type of names in the language and culture, also in the science. Why technology for us is important, and it needs also internet. We need to access the internet to do research and make these comparisons. That is a cultural translation from the Baniwa culturation to non-Baniwa, and also from non-Baniwa to Baniwa. This has been very important, this whole process of educating. And our students who came from our communities without having learned universities outside, they are being approved. Many of them are even the best students because they experience nature, the river, fishing, everything we have in our region. Here are some results. This is all in Baniwa, and this is what we need to live well in our territory. This book tells you in Baniwa. We also have that in Portuguese about the birds, to teach you how to read and write, a Baniwa calendar every month what they mean. And this one explains the school, the fish, and that's how we work. This stone tells our origin from the Araks in the world. I think this is part of a deep reflection of what we experience in all the conflicts. In the Baniwa, we will work with the concept of living well, if we did have living well, because it comes from neighboring countries, our family, and we worked on that, and we learned that the Baniwa also have well-being in their lives every day. So we have words in our language for that. Which I just said, Machaga Weremaka is to live well. So you dress well. Why? Because you want to feel well, among others. Why do you make a good home? Because you want to feel well. Because we want to go to university, to the past, and to feel well. So in the Baniwa culture, we also have that. That's also the native culture. We don't just go and produce something. We need to produce the best. Not only for yourself. The elderly in our tradition say that you have to do it with peso catillo. You have to do it with love, dedication. That's what we learn in our process. And then we produce these two books telling us our stories. The book's called Well-Being, Good Living, and also to try and drive away the conflicts that we experienced and the changes in our way of life. We have many figures and institutions, and disputes are created because of the community, and for us, being made us reflect and redirect our lives towards good living in our communities. This shows you, it's got some awards from the Getúlio Vargas Foundation, from the São Paulo Management School, medicinal plans, an award that we won in 1998, in 2001 for Baniwa Art, in 2006 also an award for the Baniwa Pepper Project, and our school was acknowledged by the Ministry of Education 2016, also as a creativity innovation school fundamental teaching. But of course, we have challenges. We don't have any. We don't have a lot of funds for this school. We have other partners. They're not the government and the municipality and the state will pay for the teachers. But to have quality teaching in our area in the Amazon, in the rainforest, we need to increase the per capita value compared to what we have today. There were many other things that I wanted to show you, but I believe now my time is up, and we need to appreciate the native traditional knowledge of the native people. We suffered with a sad history, which also needs reparation, which is different from the Amazon Fund, the benefit sharing fund from the Ministry of Environment. It's a reparation plan for the native populations has a different meaning to include all the native peoples in the Brazil, not according to biomes, but in the entire territory. I think we should be discussing that. To conclude, I want to say that the native culture ensures well-being on the planet, because we are talking about well-being and maintenance of the planet because the planet is unsustainable. That's how mankind, and still, even with the difficult situation, some people still believe that we're not there yet, and it only drives us towards the abyss. So that climate change and global warming are consequences of decisions by human beings, and the traditional people have nothing to do with that because they don't pollute. So we need to think and appreciate traditional knowledge and the dialogue between sciences, native and non. Thank you, André, Fernando Boniwa. I tell you that my rule here is dangerous or hazardous, because when a revelation comes, we can't be in the way of revelation. But in the non-native world, everything has a time and a schedule. So you know what spoke the loudest in me. Yes, I am from a native people. Thank you. And now we want to welcome the stage 3 students who participated and participate in this moment of the collaborative field experience. Mariana, let's give her a hand. Tasmin, please join us on the stage. Fabiano. They are going to share with us, it needs to be brief, unfortunately, but what's the experience like? Fabiano, please join us here on the stage. Fabiano is a student.
Então vamos começar.
Okay, Mariana, maybe you could go first and tell us do you want to have a seat? Okay, I'd rather stand. I'm nervous, so I think I'll feel better if I just stand here. First of all, I'd like to say that this is a unique opportunity which can only be described by those who experience it. Because of that, it's important that we open our eyes, our minds and hearts, and our space to welcome the cultures, languages, and history of the native populations. And because of this privilege, which is to hear from all our ancestors, I would like to thank our team directing this project. I would like to thank UNINTER and also First Nations University for their partnership and for helping make this possible. I believe I need to speak about our role and responsibility as non-native in helping this cause. This is not an anthropological experience. It's not an experience on empathy. It's an experience on being altered somebody else. And I believe that working with native populations, I mean, as a non-native, should never be for self-promotion. For you to try and find acknowledgement. Because for many years, we got too many benefits from their suffering. We know what it's like to get the benefits and erasing a history that began before 1500. I believe that my role and goal here, and also when I leave here and continue working with this, is one of working echo, this voice, which has been made silent for too long. Voice, which is exposed by many languages. We don't have one native language. We have many languages. We don't have one native people. We have a level of diversity which is enormous and grandiose, and we have a lot to learn. And because of that, to help echo and these voices in the struggle and the needs to establish the land, to maintain their rights so that our environment for everything to continue being saved by these people. They are the ones assuring our forests. We need to understand the benefits of the native ecosystem. In all the villages that we visited so far, I was extremely welcome. I mean, I felt the love from the children, and they can't communicate very well with you, but with their language, they show you love in a way you never felt before. That is one thing that make me feel blessed today, and careful way of treating those arriving in the community and the members of the community. I mean, the soil they farm and the air they breathe is something that we feel as returned, and I hope you will feel the need to see and meet these sacred environments. And because I experienced this unique magical experience which I never hoped before, because it is in fact undescribable, I thank you for strengthening in me the commitment to contribute to this fight, this cause, to do whatever it takes to help you take and occupy more areas so that you make this country and other countries, other people continue making clear that they still exist, that they are still here. And because of that, I'm thankful for the opportunity. And awe tekato, I think that was in the native language.
My name is Tasman. I am Cree. I am from Cowessess First Nation in Treaty 4 territory in Saskatchewan, Canada. I am a student at the First Nations University of Canada at the Regina campus. I am entering my 4th year of business administration, working toward a bachelor in business admin. And I thank you for welcoming me and my peers here I feel so grateful to be able to have this experience and make new connections and friends. And it's been a wonderful opportunity to be able to connect not only with the other students, but with members of the communities, the Indigenous communities that we were welcomed into. I was asked to reflect on my time here so far, and the first thing that I had learned was that I need to wear more sunscreen. It's hot here, and I left Canada, it was snowing, so I'm gonna wear more sunscreen going forward. Walking into the communities, there were so many things that were unfamiliar and new to me. Some more obvious than others. The flora, the fauna, the songs and dance, and the languages were vastly different. However, the high regard for their elders and youth, that was familiar to me. The relation to the earth and nature, that was familiar to me. The fight against systemic oppression to preserve cultural practices, that was familiar to me. The connection and love and passion that united together we are most strong, that's familiar to me. We might hail from opposite ends of the earth, but we share a deep-seated connection that is reflected in the customs of reciprocity, pride, and resilience. Back home, the buffalo was the traditional provider of sustenance and strength for my people. Now we say that education is our new buffalo. Educating youth about traditional knowledge and the knowledge of the world is what will bring us strength. And that is what I see is reflected here today. Hi, hi.
Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Fabiano Rodriguez, and in Guarani, in Kraita Taindu. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. I would like to express my gratitude to thank you all, the relatives, our friends, and my family who came from Canada. And I'm in the physical education bachelor's program. And I dream to graduate, become a PE teacher in my community. I'm very grateful. The trip that I took with my family from Canada was very important for me. Allowing me to show a little bit of our culture, our religion, that's what I wanted to say. I'm feeling a little bit nervous. It's the first time I speak in front of an audience. So thank you. Thank you.
Now we will open for questions for the audience, for the chat or online, and you can ask whatever you want for the speaker, and we will ask the question. My question is for Professor André Baniwa. I also have a school. It's not indigenous, but it's a school that tries to do something different from the standard patterns of teaching. And the people do not believe in Rio Grande do Sul, Pelotas, where I come from. They do not believe that the students can learn through nature, through the sensorial, through music. So how was it? Was there a resistance from traditional people who think that school has to be made with a blackboard and one book and always inside the classroom, and the student has to stay there the whole day sitting? Gabriela, you said, right? Very good question. Because, yes, we faced some of these difficulties, the same you mentioned. Why is it that these happen? Because the educational systems from the state or municipalities or the federal ones are the contrary of what we have in everyday life. I don't know where this organization comes from for the education, but I think it comes from the outside or from abroad. I don't know. So this is a problem for the recognition of what is already a right. For the process of learning, we learn how to read and write through fishing. They have to talk about they did and what they saw, or they go planting a garden. So they make a report. Better than imagine to make a text, a fictional text. And we prove that because our students went to the university, they had master's degrees, and the systems, the educational systems cannot change. So these are people like the leaders of these technicians in the state or the municipality, because the legislation already give this opportunity. So people resist. That's true. But it's a problem for the advancement of this kind of more open school. This is the school of the future if you talk to specialists. If you talk about the Institute of Knowledge in Rio Negro, if we talk to specialists, this is the tendency of the world when you talk about producing knowledge. But the system do not want to recognize that. So, in a way, this is something I discovered. Why is it that they resist so much? Because we are facing power. Because they will say, Gabriela will be like a leader. This is how the politicians think. They are afraid to lose their power. I don't know if I am right. This is one interpretation that I could share with you. Maybe we had to put these experiences together, because you have the experiences of the Indigenous. We could put together to make these experiences stronger, maybe. André, congratulations for what you said. I'd like to ask you something. When you were talking about that we have been having many conversations about the originary people, indigenous people, and when you mentioned that you had the idea to found the annual school, it reminds me that school has always been one of the biggest elements of civilization in other cultures. Gradually, as you said, and slow. But I'd like to tell a brief story and ask if you have something similar about the young people in your community. In my home, my stepson is 13, and he learned And he has been learning things that are not from our family or even from our city because of the influence of the social networks. TikTok, I don't know. So it changes the behavior of our children, unfortunately. So I always follow these networks for indigenous people. How have you been feeling this new influence that has been affecting our young people? Is that a reality for you as well? Yes, that's unfortunately a reality for you as well. At the end of the 90s, we created some projects. By then, we didn't have internet or radio. Now we have. And we have public payphones in some communities. So we didn't have engines for generating the energy that we needed. We didn't have much access for industrialized products in general. I think we have more than 150 points of internet in the village that we live, and televisions and generators for electricity. If you consider the community, it is positive, but the impact may be a little negative as well. For example, not having the knowledge about these food products, for example, and it brings problems because they eat too much salt, too much sugar, and they have health problems because of industrialized food, for example. When we consider the communities, the problem is not so big because we have been working with that since before the internet came, so that they would know how to use it. Technology is important for us, but we have to learn how to use the technology, because if we don't learn how to use with our culture, it's going to cause bad effects on us. So we try to control this negative influence of technologies in general. Of course, it is dangerous. For example, during the pandemic, we had some Baniwa communities that decided they didn't want vaccination because somebody told them that there was the number of Satan at the vaccination. So they made a public letter saying they would not accept this vaccination, but would accept other vaccination. But there's only, I don't know, the same way you would do any vaccine. So we have these problems with science and technology. The culture, good, but then there are the bad things as well. Every culture has good and bad things. So we try to permanently do a monitoring to see what fits and what doesn't fit, try and create indicators for the community and for the families. I think this is fundamental. One question for Tin. Professor Baniwa talked about financing for students. It's very difficult for Brazil and for Indigenous. What about Canada? How does it work? Is it hard for you as well to have financial benefits for Indigenous students?
So since we come from Canada, there has been a lot of financial barriers that have been in place for our Indigenous students to access university, post-secondary education. One of the things that, some of the programs that we are creating within Saskatchewan, Regina, Canada, is to remove those financial barriers for our Indigenous students whichever way possible. Unfortunately, it's some are not as lucky and still require some assistance, whether it be through student loans and what have you. The nature of the delivery of that education is also shifting in First Nations university towards more like the electronic delivery, but at the same time balancing the Indigenous perspective. So, for example, the Indigenous elder that was here, the older fellow, he would be considered like one of those individuals who has that PhD because of his knowledge within the community, the knowledge that he carries and how our students access that knowledge. So financially, it makes it more feasible for our students that are living in our First Nation communities to connect with the elders in their community, and then a blend thereof in terms of how they're assessed on that knowledge.
Good afternoon, I'm Professor Gisele Monteiro. I am receiving a question from the chat online, and I am going to report this to you as soon as I get it. Hello, I'm Marci Paranhos. I'd like to ask a question for Tim about financial sustainability of the indigenous people in Canada. Here in Brazil, we have a lot of discussions about exploring what is under the soil, like minerals, etc. Do you have that discussion as well? Do you have the results going to the indigenous people or for the union?
I actually was talking about it, this very topic earlier today. Back in Canada, we have the First Nations program called OCAP, which is Ownership, Control, and Access to the Information. So essentially what was created in Canada, not only from a First Nations perspective, the Indigenous perspective, but from the federal government, that builds in that ownership of that knowledge within the communities itself. So if a researcher does go approach to a First Nation community, specifically looking for research within minerals or what have you, that knowledge stays within the community. It also allows the community to decide how that knowledge will be used in terms of publication or potential mineral development within their communities. Some communities are very proactive, whether it be in a traditional territory where they know that there would not be as much disturbance, but again, it's up to the individual nation within Canada to understand how they proceed with that knowledge.
Boa tarde, gente. Meu nome é Fernanda e minha pergunta é para o André.
Good afternoon. My name is Fernanda. My name is for André, Professor Karina. You mentioned that it's very difficult to be able to have financing for schools. I'd like to know about some other strategies that have been implemented and already worked for the preservation of knowledge from the indigenous for sustainability, and to understand better how it worked and how we can be part of these initiatives. I think a good example, it's not like Brazilian help. When I talk about it's hard to find support for these kinds of school, talking about Brazil, we're talking about this foundation here with 23 people, 90 associations, 700 communities. The cooperation is more than 2 decades with the Alliance for Climate from Austria. It's a partnership. It's a long-term partnership. And this kind of partnership with indigenous organizations, the communities. That would be important because it's like the heart of the matter for many other things, for positive influence on public policies on the country. When you're talking about education in Rio de Negro, students from Norwegian, they have campaigns or for one day in Norway, and they finance the implementation of these types of schools I mentioned. It has been 20 years, and after 20 years, it's over. But our commitment with them was to convince the public power to keep that level of financing, and we were not able to do that because it's 60 cents per student. So if you have 200 students, how much money do you need for that school? The way you calculate education in Brazil is different when you calculate the indigenous health. It's like 350 or 600. But education is cents per student, not units of money per student, and do not include those people. So it's very less if you compare to health. If you live in the community and you need to buy fuel to come and go, if it's 2 times every 2 months, or even if they go every day, it would be necessary that these expenses would be covered. In the city, it's very easy. You take a bus, you go every day to school, but we don't have bus. We just have these small boats, and we have to go through the river. Yeah, I use it to row. Every day I would leave at 4 a.m. to arrive at my school at 8 a.m. because I had to row to go to school, and I would come and go every day. So when you don't have support, you're talking about sustainability, climate change, talk about this. This is something I learned when I study environmental management. Well, I learned that they have been talking about this since the 70s. So we have been talking about environmental protection for a long time, but we're still not doing everything that we need. In our country, we should have a maximum priority for environmental education. It's not a priority. We have some experiences. Of course, some things are going on, but we're still far from where we needed to be. When I talked about Ayrton Krenak, it's very hard to postpone the Armageddon, So we should declare that environmental education should be a priority in every country. So some experiences are subsidized by small funds, 50,000, 100,000, and then we use everything and we have to do another project, and they want that project to be sustainable. So when we look at other sectors, and it's not 150,000 that will keep things going. So I'm talking in this sense in Brazil and outside of Brazil.
Thank you very much for your questions, and also would like to thank our guests and participants for their questions and comments. This has been a very rich moment that's contributed to the education of our teachers and students. I also would like to thank the presence of the representative of the Education Center, Professor Andrea Gomes, honoring our event with her presence, and to help internalize all the knowledge and the results from our event. Let's now hear Nancy from Canada for a cultural presentation. Nancy, if you would join us on the stage.
Inaskaman kakio peote anots. Kihiu awase segua kihiu menguan escona sigasan. Wapestane esgnisian. Agaesimo sigasan Nancy Grayes. I say good afternoon. First of all, my names are Eagle Child and Golden Eagle Feather Woman. I'm from the Martin clan, and I would just thank all of you guys for coming here today. And they told me to bring something that represents my culture. So I dance powwow, we call it. It's an expressive form of dance which we can credit to the Dakota people. And my particular style of dance is fancy shawl. And although some would wear 1 or 2 tall black tip eagle feathers, I wear this one as I am Nehio and Anishinaabe, and this is the style of the Anishinaabe. The shawl I wear, it's if you can see, it's a warrior flag. This warrior flag is not, hopefully it's not about war. It's about bringing all people from all different directions to enforce the great law of peace and our law of Wahkotun. Wahkotun is our relationship with not just other humans, not with just the animals, but the water, the land, the animals. All of it is so, you can't damage the water and expect the humans to thrive. You can't damage the water, the land, and expect, we have to consider all of it. And this is why I chose to wear this. The dance itself began for women, this particular style, after World War II, when our women, many of them have 5 aunts who went and served in World War II. And so from then, before then, they would not be allowed to take their feet off the ground. And this is an old style dance that I will share with you. It's a double beat, and yeah, so I will show you that. Thank you. something that I should share. It's that style is representative of a butterfly or an eagle.
So we now invite the Tuoifafurino group to close our event with this song, Pichinaha, the rain song, so that just how the rain bathes the earth, that it will allow us to be bathed in the knowledge of the native populations.
Sunny. Bacana. olha aqui, ninguém te arri. Ah, se sondoa, copenha, tencia cá, pitialha, rateoa, olha aqui, ninguém te arri. Idemi que aí, aquele de abalhar. Yaque de abalhar, idemi que aí, yaque de abalhar, yaque de abalhar, idemi que aí, yaque de abalhar, idemi yaque de abalhar.
Agradecemos.
Thank you again to our speakers for this afternoon of learning, and also for nice representative Carol here in the audience, and also to Afunio group for contributing with their music, and also to the other participants. Thank you for coming, for being here, and we hope you have enjoyed this afternoon of dialogue. Please remember to leave your headphones at the entrance to this hall when you leave, and you're also invited to see the native art exhibit, and also for some coffee on the 8th floor, where you will also have the chance to maybe help and buy some of Professor Andre's books. Thank you very much for this afternoon. See you soon.